Oh, yeah.
we're doing it.
But anyway,
Okay.
I appreciate you guys coming in to learn about this. I think you're all signed in, right? Everybody's signed into Freckle. Essentially, Freckle, I know you've had a chance to kind of look at it. It's just a pretty good formative assessment tool that you can use with your students, and it gives a lot of visuals for the teacher. The teacher can see exactly where the students are based on color. It can group students. It uses math, social studies, ELA, and that's what we're going to be going over today, going over ELA. I know everybody's signed in, so I'm going to do a quick sign in here. But when you sign in, just always use your Google, because then that links to your Google Classrooms. There's always a quick did you know. You can read through that. And then if everybody is at this screen, if you could go up here to the Getting Started section on the left on the dashboard. Getting Started, that kind of just gives you a checklist if you've added your first class. We're going to add our first class, and we're just going to add ourselves as a student. I'm not going to walk you through students yet. I'm going to have a video of that later, and then we're going to be sharing students with the math teachers who've already gotten this done, so you really don't have any students to add. But if you hit add your first class there at the top, which I think you did the other day, so you're okay. And then you can name it whatever you want. If you want to name it like ELA, you can go ahead and do that. See where it says default class?
Yeah, is that what we name it?
Yep, you can name it ELA if you want to.
Are students going to be seeing this?
They won't be seeing this yet. So
I mean the title of whatever we name it?
they will.
So we need to see something, okay.
So if you name it like Tilly ELA or whatever you'd like.
Do you want me to keep the name off though, as you mentioned to me?
You can keep it as ELA, or you can have it ELA Hazeman. It's just we're gonna keep students off right now.
Oh, so this is just a fake one?
Yep. Then once you hit next, then it's gonna ask for your grade, and then you can hit next, and then it's got a section where you can add students. It's really easy to add students. We're not gonna do that right now. You can see that it's added you as a student, and that's what we're gonna be using today as kind of like a practice round. But you can add students, you can copy and paste from Google Sheets, which I'll have a video on that'll kind of walk you through it. But a lot of this you won't even have to do, because since we've already added students in math and science, it's going to do it for you. So once it's got you can go ahead and we are going to add, let's see where it says first name, just make up, you can either put in a student, just one student that you have, or just make up a name like John Doe or something right now, and then hit done, because it needs you to add at least one student. Hit add student, and then they're gonna come up, and then you can hit done.
Done adding one student?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
All right, then we've got let's get started. It should give you a class code. Go ahead and write that class code down. We're gonna need that later, and then if you don't have that code, there is a spot we'll get to later. And then we're gonna hit let's get started. But essentially you've got the welcome page. When it starts up, it's gonna bring you to the activity feed. The activity feed, there's a lot to it. We're gonna go over it a little bit more in depth a little bit later, but I'm gonna show you what it has done for me in math so far. So I'm gonna get rid of the ELA and I'm gonna select all my math. You can see where it has my students, it groups them by color, how they've done. It shows how many minutes they've practiced, how many questions, and the last thing that they've done. And it does this the same with ELA. It'll tell you how many minutes, questions, and it does tell you, how they've done. So you can really use that for your intervention. So I have a student who scored very poor. I know to pull that student for intervention up at my desk. It also will show you the most questions correct, at least questions correct. So you can really just use that to see what students are doing based on the questions they've been answering, and you can pull them for intervention during our pause and AA time. Highest accuracy, most time practice, and so on. So I've been using this and using them for pause. You can also take a student and do a drop down, and it will tell you exactly what that student in particular has been doing. So this particular student answered 9 questions but didn't score anything. So that tells me that this student just rushed through and just answered. But then if I come down here to these students, I could see that their grade level, where they're at, their time spent, the questions, and their score. So if I look at this one where he scored an 80, I can go to it by clicking an arrow, and it's gonna load on me here, and then it will show me exactly what they missed and how they scored. It's very similar with ELA, and we're gonna work through just kind of setting some stuff up with ELA. But that's the activity feed. We'll have the ELA selected, and I'm gonna get rid of my math. And I've done one thing today to kind of show you what the scores can be, time spent, and so on, with what I did. But then if you go over here and you can hit, if everybody could hit assignments. Assignments, you can see you've got your ELA. Yours is probably empty because you haven't assigned anything yet. It probably says no data to show. We're gonna create an assignment here in a little bit, but there's a whole bunch of ways you can add assignments. There's a button here you can add an assignment. We can go down here and add assignments. It's all over the place, so when you see a specific standard, you can add that assignment. But if you've got your ELA tab, you've got incompleted assignments. That means the whole class isn't done yet. And then you can click completed assignments, and it'll show you what's all done. And then you can click reports, and it will show you exactly what students have done and so on. But we're gonna be doing that in a little bit. You've got reading topics that you can set reading levels. So I set a reading to grade level, 3rd grade, middle of the year. That's what 3B is. I mean, you guys would know more of that than I would. But 3rd grade, middle of the year. And these question marks, if you click them, well, see middle of 3rd grade, it kind of helps you out a little bit. And you can have the same article, but for different grade bands. And we'll get to that too.
For different students.
Yeah, and you can even check which students you want to have which ones.
Like an ABC,
What's that?
ABC, like
Yeah,
middle
so it has a
high.
grade level and then an ABC. So like you
Beginning,
could
middle,
have
and end.
4th grade C, so 4th grade end of the year. Yep. And so there's your assignments. This is where you kind of go to see how much of the class is complete. So if I go to my math one, you can see how many students have finished, how many students are working, and how many students haven't started. So that's what I've got there, and then I can view my reports and so on through here. I can see how my students have done. You can see who hasn't done anything, their scores, their time, if they've completed it. So if I had this person with this percentage, I can go and see exactly how she scored today. And it'll tell me right where she needs to be. And it'll show me the question. If you go to roster, roster has all your students, and this is where the math teachers, we're going to share our students with you. So I shared my students with Kelly, so we're going to get, later we're going to put these students together as one class. What I would suggest is you make one class of all your students, because if you split the classes, the free edition only allows you to do so much. You can only do an assignment in first, like your first period, but you can't do it in the second period until first period's done. But I found if you put them all in one class, then you can do it all that way to make it free. So that's what we're planning on doing, is making it free.
So Mr. Walston, we talked about how I already made my classes.
Yeah.
And you said something about me.
Yeah, so we'll share these students
Okay.
later on.
Okay.
Yep, so we're gonna share those later with us.
Okay.
And then it'll be the same thing, I just linked it to my Google Classroom.
Good, yeah, that's
Okay.
even, yep, you
Okay.
can do that too. Yep.
Okay.
And then we can print login cards and so on. So that way students you can pass them out at the beginning of the year. But essentially the way students log in, which we're gonna look at in a little bit, is their first, last name, and then your class code. So it's really easy for them to sign in. School, this one you don't have to look at too much. I don't look at this very often, but it just shows teachers in your district, how long they've been using it. Coins, that's the reinforcement for kids, that they give these coins to like pay their piggy banks, and then they can buy things.